Hello love, welcome back to my channel. This is So with Oma. In today's video I'll be showing you how I drafted this simple basic bodice, and as we all know, the basic bodice pattern is what you would use to draft even your bustier, your corset and any other kind of style that you can think of in fashion. With that being said, let's dive into today's video. To draft this pattern, what you'll be needing is your pattern paper, your tape roll, your scissors, your curved ruler and your marker or your pencil. For me, I'll be using a marker. The first thing we want to do is to rule out our base lines on the shoulder area and also the center front. So this is what I'm just currently going to do. I'm just going to pick the shoulder and take half of an inch and rule it across, and also the center front of this pattern and rule it as well. Take half of an inch and also rule it across. This will serve as the baseline, or the shoulder point, especially from the top part of our pattern, which is our shoulder point, and you can also call it your baseline. After ruling these lines across, the next thing we're going to do is to start taking all our vertical measurements, and I'll be starting with my bust point, my under bust, my waist point and my hip point. As soon as I've noted all the points, I'm going to then rule a line across the bust point, the under bust point, the waist point and as well the hip point. To ensure I remember all my points, I'm just going to name them accordingly. I'm going to name them from the bust, the under bust, the waist and then the hip. And the next thing I'm going to do now is to determine my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15, and so I'm going to divide it by 2, and I marked 7.5. Next thing I did was to mark 3 inches as my width and also 3 inches as my length. The front neck is usually lower than the back, and so that is why I measured 3 inches as the length as well. At the back it will be less than 3 inches. So what the next thing I did was to rule about 1 inch line, then connected the other points with my curved ruler. After connecting our neckline, the next thing we're going to do now is to mark 1 inch from the shoulder point down. This will serve as a shoulder slope, and so we're going to connect that point to the neckline. After connecting to the neckline, the next thing I did was to take my tape roll and mark 7.5 inches from the 1 inch that will serve as a shoulder slope, and this is going to be our chest line. For me, I usually use the same measurement I use for my shoulder, that is my shoulder measurement divided by 2. I use that to determine my chest line, and so I'm just going to rule a line across from the shoulder slope down to the chest line. The next thing we want to do now is to get our armhole, and so from our chest line, that's from the shoulder slope down to the chest line, we're going to divide it into 2 and mark the point there, and from that point we're going to mark half an inch in, and then on the chest line we're going to measure our bust measurement divided by 4 and just mark the point there and connect using our curved ruler to form the armhole. The next thing we want to do now is to mark at our dart, and by so doing we're going to get our apex measurement or our bust bar measurement, which is our nipple to nipple, divided by 2, and mark it from the bust point, the under bust point, the waist point and down to the hip point. As soon as you're done marking on the point, the next thing you want to do is to rule a straight line from your bust point down to your hip line. And then the next thing we're going to do is to take half an inch on both sides on our waist point line, and then from our hip line we're going to take in 1.5 inch up. That is where our dart is going to stop, and so we're connecting from the bust point down to the waist point where we have our half an inch, and we'll do that on this other side. The same thing from the waist point down to the hip line. We're not going to take it to the end of the hip line, and that was why we marked 1.5 inch up. So you just connect like so to where we marked the 1.5 inch up, and you do the same thing on the other side. After getting your dart, before we start marking our circumference measurement, which is our round measurement, we are going to replace the dart intake, and so from the under bust we are going to replace half an inch. From the waist point we're going to replace 1 inch. So what you're going to do now is to start from your under bust. Remember, initially from the chest line we took our bust measurement divided by 4 and we marked it there to connect our armhole. On the bust point you don't need to also mark any measurement there, because we're starting our bust measurement from our chest line. So from the underbust, you're going to measure your underbust circumference divided by 4. Mark the point there, and also take your 1/2 inch dart intake and mark it as well. On your waist point, you're also going to take your waist circumference divided by 4, mark it there, and also add the 1 inch dart intake. On your hip line, you don't need to add any dart intake because the dart did not get up to that point. So the next thing we want to do is to connect all our points together. Don't forget that from your waistline and your underbust line, the point you'll be connecting is the other one, the second one outside, not the one inside. After connecting, this is what my body looks like. Yours might be different, yours might be more curvy. The next thing we want to do now is to get our bust dart. And so by so doing, from our bust point, we're just going to mark down 2 inches and connect like so. And finally, from our hip line, we're going to also take 2 inches up and just connect to join the dart line. And that is all about the front bodice pattern. I also named my pattern front. You can now cut out your front pattern. With that being done and our front bodice pattern being achieved, I would say congratulations at this point. And so the next thing we're going to do now is to draft our back pattern. For the back pattern, we're going to follow through the same method we used for our front pattern. And so we're just going to mark our shoulder line and then our center back base line. And so the next thing we're going to do here is to mark out 1 inch for our zipper allowance. Remember, this is the back and we're supposed to have a zipper at the back. Like you see me doing, I'm just marking all the points down so I can have a straight line ruled across these points. Once that is achieved, the next thing we're going to do is to start with our vertical measurement, starting with our bust point, our under bust point, our waist point, our hip point. Once that is done, we're going to rule a line across and also name it the bust point, the under bust point, the waist point, and our hip point. If you noticed, while ruling our lines, I did not rule into the zipper allowance. That is the right thing to do because our circumference measurement at the back should be taken from the line before the zipper allowance. And so just like our front pattern, you're going to take your shoulder measurement also from the line before the zipper allowance. You are then going to mark 3 inches as the width and also 1 inch as the length. Okay, this is the back. The back neck is usually higher than the front neck. I mistakenly marked 3 inches, but I corrected it immediately and you can see that I connected to the 1 inch. You're also going to mark 1 inch from the shoulder line down, and that will serve as a shoulder slope. Connect it to the neckline and then mark 7.5 inches from the shoulder slope to get our chest line. Rule a line across and name it our chest line. The next thing we want to do now is from our shoulder slope, which is the 1 inch we brought down, we're going to put our ruler and rule a straight line down to the chest line. After that is done, you will take your tape rule and measure the 7.5 and divide the 7.5 inches by 2. Mark it at the midpoint, and from there you're going to take in 1/2 inch. And so on the chest line, you're going to take your bust measurement divided by 4 and mark it also. Remember, the place you're going to start taking your measurement from is from the line before your zipper allowance. And so after getting your bust measurement divided by 4 and marking it, you're then going to connect the armhole line from the shoulder down to the bust measurement. Once that is done, the next thing we want to do is to take our dart. And so from the line before the zipper allowance, we're going to measure our apex or our bust span, also known as nipple to nipple, divided by 2. This time around, we're going to start the measurement from our chest line because our back does not have any breast or any bust. It is flat at the back, and so that's why we're going to take our dart up from the chest line. Also from the hip line, we're going to mark in 1.5 inch, then measure 1/2 inch from the waist point on both sides, and so we'll connect from the chest line down to the point we made on our waistline, and the same thing we're going to do on our hip line. Once you've connected your dart, the next thing we're going to do now is to take our circumference measurement. Remember, just like we did at the front, we're also going to take our dart intake. And so from the under bust, I marked my round circumference, I marked my underbust circumference divided by 4 and also added the ½ inch dart intake. On my waist point, I did the same thing, took my waist circumference divided by 4 and added the 1 inch dart intake. On my hip line, we don't need to add any dart intake because the dart did not extend down to that place, and so I'm just going to connect the way you see me do. Please, for the record, all my circumference measurements that I took, I started from the line before the zipper allowance. Please take note. The next thing we're going to do now is to mark 1 inch up from the center back hip point, and at the side back hip point we're going to mark 2 inches up, and we'll take our curve ruler and connect those points as you see me do. Once that is done, the last and the final thing you're going to do, my love, is at your zipper allowance, you're going to take in from your waist point ½ inch and from your underbust ½ inch, and then you're going to take your ruler and rule a line across this point. The next thing you're going to do is to take your ruler from your underbust point, that's the ½ inch you took on your zipper. You're going to rule a slanted line up to your shoulder point, and at your waist point you do the same thing, rule a slanted line down to your hip point. The reason why you're doing this is because it will help whenever you're fixing your zipper not to have a zipper bulging out at your back. Next thing you want to do now is to cut out. You're going to start from your zipper allowance. As soon as you cut up towards the end of your shoulder point, you're going to rule a straight line across your neckline into your zipper allowance. You do the same thing at your hip line. From that 1 inch we took up, you're going to rule a straight line into your zipper allowance, and there you have it, my love. You have your basic bodice pattern drafting done and dusted. Right now I want to say congratulations again. You're just going to cut out, and that is all about this basic bodice pattern drafting. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it was valuable. If you enjoyed this video and if you found value in this video, do not forget to subscribe. Please subscribe, like, share this video to as many people that are into the fashion line, and do not forget to comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and do not forget to give this video a thumbs up on the comment section. It's going to help me post more valuable videos like this. Right now I'm currently doing my voiceover from my closet, and so this is hard work. If you want me to keep going, leave a comment and do not forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video. Till we see you in the next video. Bye.